Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody's doing well today. Today I have a little project at hand. We're going to remove this Clark 2.7 gallon tank. It served us really well. I really like the way this tank looks and fits, but it sure caused a lot of fuel anxiety. So this one is another gallon and it really served us well. Cody and I ran it through the whole big trip we took out west Idaho, and it really helped. He still got the stock tank. So I'm going to take this off today and we're going to give this to Cody. This is still a really good tank, and we're going to try out this new IMS 3.6 gallon tank that we got from ProCycle, and we're just going to let you guys ride along. We're going to do a review on it and do a little instructional video on how to install it. So not getting paid by these guys at all, and they just were nice enough to send it to me to try out, and we're going to put it on, see how it fits, give a good honest review on it, and if it works out, which I believe it will, we'll have 3.6 gallons, close to 70 miles to the gallon. So you guys do the math on that. That's not too bad. And so right along with the state of the end, I'll review how easy it was to put on or whatever, how it fits. The Clark tank has been great. There is a little bit of a fitment issue where these plastic panels, as you'll see in a little bit, pop into this bracket here, and on the factory tank they go into these grommets right here. Now, according to the instructions, we're going to have to take these grommets out and reuse them. So if you do have an aftermarket tank already and you don't have these, then before you install it, you might want to order up a couple of them from Partzilla or ProCycle or somewhere like that, if those guys carry them, and then that way these right here will snap back into this tank here. So but yeah, let's get it put on there. We're just going to walk through it, and this is going to be just a tad bit different than if you had the factory tank, but not very much. The only real difference is going to be I'm going to have to remove a bolt here you guys won't, and I'll have to remove the same bolt here that you guys do. But taking the seat off and getting these panels loose and all that's going to be almost exactly the same. And then we'll find out what it takes to hook up the factory fuel valve here. We're going to put this one into the new tank. So anyway, without yakking a whole bunch, let's get it done, see how it does. I may try to take a heat gun and save these. They don't really stick too well anyway. I'm going to try to slice some cuts in them and move them over to this tank. I really like the way that looks. And I have some of that. If you guys have ever paid attention to Toyota pickups, down by the rear wheel, they have some really nice rock guard stuff, and I have some of that. We're going to cut some slices in it and put it over these stickers maybe. I don't know how that's going to do or if we'll get it on film, but we're going to try it. So, all right, let's see what happens here, guys. Appreciate you guys coming back for another one. And like I said, I'm going to drop a link below for this tank here from ProCycle. And I know IMS has made great things through the years, and they're the only people that make a big tank for like a WR250. So they have really quality stuff. But we're going to get it on the T-Dub here and see how she does. All right, guys. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is take out these two 10mm bolts that hold this seat on. Save them because you're going to have to put them back. All right, then all you got to do, pull the seat up and back. All there is to it. Mine's a little tight because of that's the tusk rack there. Lay that off to the side. Then you're going to have 110 here on your factory tank, and that's going to be it. On this particular tank, I'm going to have to pull this one out. It's aftermarket. And then, before we pull the tank off, you're going to want to make sure your fuel's off or you're going to spill some. And then we're going to remove this fuel line here. And I'm going to leave the line on the carb. I don't really see any reason to take it off. I have one little removable clamp right here. This little removable clamp right here should be able to just squeeze it with your fingers. If not, you can use some pliers. And then this should pull right off here. And you might spill just a tad, but not too bad. All right, let's get those bolts out. 110 here. Oh, That wasn't real tight, was it? Save everything. Don't throw anything away just yet. All right, let's buzz this out. Now, remember that if your tank is factory, you won't have a bolt here. These will simply just be rubber spacers underneath to hold it. So the Clark tank mounts directly. This one's going to have the, looks like the IMS here is going to have some bracketry to do kind of the same thing this is doing here. Now on my particular Clark tank, I had a really hard time getting this to line up perfectly in here. And I ended up just using basically some zip ties to hold it in place to the tank, which worked perfect. But I didn't have to distort this or anything. So we'll just need to clip this loose. Let me grab some clippers. And if you do have a Clark tank and you've had a hard time getting that to fit correctly in here, that's a really good way to fix it. So while it's on here, let me show you guys. So the Clark tank has a little part that sticks down here for the rubber grommet to go in, and I just had an absolute fit getting that to fit right, and it kept bowing this out here. So I just zip tied it in place, and it's worked for a long time, just like that. And all I ended up having to do is drill a little bitty hole in the bottom edge of this thing here, and that didn't hurt a thing. It's not even gonna be visible unless you lay down and look at it. Alright, we did the same thing over on this side. Let's clip that out of the way, just like that. Alright, now we should be able to just lift this tank right out of the way. And then we'll swap over our fuel valve onto this one, onto our new one. Also on the Clark tank, you're going to have some dowels that go in the little here. You can just pull them out where they clear the frame rail there. Pull them out, and we should be able to just lift this right out of here, just like that. Yep, nothing to it. So Cody will be able to use this one. We don't have to throw it away. It was a guy on a TW4 that sold this to me for a really good price, and it really served its purpose well. So, boy, I about had this thing out of gas. Let's swap the fuel valve over to this one. I'll show you how to do that, and then we're going to use the fuel that's in here to rinse this tank out a little bit. Sometimes when a factory drills this, you may have a little bit left of shavings or even dust can get in there. So we'll use that little bit of fuel, rinse it around and pour it out before we mount it on the bike. Alright, task at hand, let's swap this valve over. Now according to the instructions, you're going to want to put this little thing, this little piece here, on here before you put the petcock on, and that'll help seal this. They've really polished this off nice, and then you'll use the factory O-ring. So let's get it out of the factory tank, or the Clark tank, and go with this. These particular screws here are going to be number 3 Phillips. And it would be great if you can use a JIS vessel style screwdriver. These are the ones I use here. It's number 3 Phillips. They fit Japanese screws really well. This particular one here is a vessel 930 3x150. Really good screw. Alright. Screwdriver rather. In the factory tank, they could be really tight. But in this tank, they weren't bad because it's plastic. Hopefully we can get this on and really enjoy some long rides this summer. Got some good warm weather coming. Now this particular, when you remove this from your factory tank, all you're going to have is this O-ring. This came with the Clark, so we'll keep this with it. I'll zip tie it here for Cody, and he can put that on old yellow. Alright guys, so what you're going to do is put this gasket, make sure this O-ring's good and looks okay. This one's actually got a little bit of something on it here. Look like just a flake of something. Let's get it off of there. I don't even know what in the world that is. It almost looks like a flake of copper or something, doesn't it? Alright, so what you want to do, put this down on there like that. And you're going to have two 8mm headed 5mm by 12s that come with the tank. And then you want to make sure that your valve lever faces to the outside. So that's going to put your reserve filter at the bottom. And it can be just a little bit tight going in there. So you want to just kind of twist it and gently push. You could technically drill this a little bigger, but you don't absolutely have to. It will fit. Just easily push it in there. And then make sure your gasket's lined up. And we're going to start these and tighten them gently because this is plastic, remember. I'm just going to snug this up gently, evenly on both sides. Like I said, you want it snug so it doesn't leak, but no super over tightening. Just gently snug it up. Should be perfect. Alright, and according to the instructions here, we're going to want a bracket. Actually, you want, if you're going to stack this together just like this from left to right, you're going to do, of course, the bolt, a washer, the bracket, a washer, your frame rail will be here, a washer, then a spacer, another washer, and a nut. So let's get this on the bike, and according to the instructions, I think I have this right. We're going to go left to right, and it wants us to kind of gently tighten this down, and then we'll put the tank on. Alright guys, so I was thinking it goes to this top hole, but that's my bad. This is actually where the Clark tank goes. So there's another one down here. I was like, what is going on? Like I said, this is the first time. This is the one you're going to use. Now, newer bikes will not have this problem probably, but this is an 07. So this is full of dirt here. So I'm going to stick a screwdriver in there. Now we may end up having to run a drill bit through there, but let's see if we can get some dirt to come out of that, maybe. Oh yeah. Yeah, and you could just take a drill bit at this size or take the bolt and blow an air hose through there if you want to. It's just muddy from riding for years and years and years, you know. Let's take my old Clark tank bolt here and stick through there. See if we can clear it out here. Oh yeah, that's perfect. I was like, what is going on here? But it's this bolt hole that we need. Okay. Alright, so we'll take bolt, washer, spacer, washer. These are the smaller washers in the kit. Install here. Just like so. According to the instructions, we'll have washer, spacer, bracket, washer, nut. Okay. Alright, and it wants us to snug these up so we can kind of keep them from flopping around. I guess it's so we can position. So I would just gently snug them up where they kind of stay, and then we'll go back and tighten this a little bit later. Yeah, so they'll kind of hold themselves right there. Loosely tighten them, and they'll stay put. Okay. Alright guys, so now we need to mount our little brackets here to the tank. These two brackets here with the 3 holes are going to go with the bend portion facing outwards. We're going to put those rubber grommets from the factory tank over there in this hole here. The two of these 8mm here are going to hold these on. And I personally, since we go way off of the beaten path, I'm going to put just a tiny little drop of blue Loctite on these. You don't want much because you don't want to ruin this if you ever have to take it back off. But I should never have to take these back off unless something happens to the tank, and then maybe I can just get the whole tank replaced. So let's get a little bit of blue Loctite. This particular one here is going to mount at the back for, this is the factory mounting location. We'll get that one on there as well. You can put a little bit of Vaseline on this if you want. It probably makes it a little bit easier. There we go. And this is where your, of course, your plastic piece here will push in later. Don't need much, just a tiny drop. And I don't think I would use red, since you really don't have to put a lot of Loctite for stainless or steel bolts going into brass. But we're going to be doing some major riding, a lot of shaking. Yeah, I think it's in our best interest to put a little bit, to be honest with you. Good and snug. Good and snug. Okay, now let's do the one for the back. Alright, and for this bracket here, you're going to want to bend down so we can mount it to the frame. And we'll put 2 bolts in there and tighten them up. And then we'll be just about ready to set it on the bike. Alright, guys, so it's gonna be it's gonna include one of these little rubber grommets here. You actually have 3 of these, but this one here fits perfectly. You go from the bottom up on this back bracket here and just insert it like that. And I like to use a little bit of this assembly goo here. This just is like transmission gel or whatever. You could use grease or Vaseline. Put a little bit of this on all the rubber points, and then you won't have to worry about it being so hard to get things mounted up there. Okay. Alright, so we got that took care of. Now, what we're going to do now is put the tank down on here, and according to the instructions, like it was telling us before, to leave these loose. So we're going to go down with the tank and get all that squared away, line everything up, make sure we can get our bolts started, and when we're confident we can, we'll take it back off and torque this bolt down here, the nut down rather. Alright. Now then, see how all of our little plastic lines up here. Yeah, wow, that looks really good. Look how good that lines up here. This line is just about perfect. I don't have the tank bolted down yet, but that looks really good. Okay, let's get under here now and see how far away we are from being right. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I think we can pull it back off and torque this down. We'll try to keep those from turning too much. I could probably technically tighten it down the way it sits, to be honest with you, with 2 wrenches, but I mean, it's easy enough to lift off of here. If you kind of stabilize these with your fingers, See how that one turned just a little bit? Just try to keep it where it goes. Keep it from turning if you can. It's kind of hard. See there, it's going to turn just a little. Just go back with it a little bit. And that's going to have some play in it. Okay. And technically you can go in there and really crank down on this with a wrench from the bottom. But I think we got it pretty much tight enough. That's a nylock nut, so you're not going to have to worry about that really. And then to mount the bottom side of this, we're going to use one of these long bolts here, a big washer, one of these grommets, and you're going to put one of these metal spacers, small metal spacers. There's 2 of these available into the grommet, just like this, and then you'll see that kind of squish out as we tighten it. So let's snug this one. And that'll bottom out because of that spacer that we have in there. Alright. Now we'll go to the back. Alright guys, I think I've kind of decided I'm going to use this line that came with it. I really like this line. That way you can see if fuel's flowing out. So let's start by putting it on our carburetor. Right, turn these to the inside so you don't catch your pants leg on there. So let's cut here straight across as possible. There it is. There's an arrow pointing that way. So that's going to be the flow of our fuel is going to be this way. And that makes sense because fuel comes in, filters, and then goes out. So let's hook it here. We'll put a little bit of lubricant on it. I also like this fuel line because it stretches really well and really gets tight fit, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. That's good stuff. Okay, now what I'd kind of like to do is keep this as low as possible so we don't get any gravity issues. Now I have heard people complain that this is lower than the inlet, but all that matters is that the carb bowl is lower, because this is where this ends up down here in the bottom. So if you draw a plane across from here, if you had a level, you're still above the float height. So I believe you're going to still be able to get the majority of the fuel out. I'm pretty confident. We'll find out in a long-term review, but I believe you're going to be able to get the majority of it out of there. Okay, so I'm going to shorten this up till we don't want this to kink. I'm going to say about right there is going to be plenty. So right in this area here, you don't want to cut it too short. You can always take some off. Right there. Put a little bit more of our trans gel on there. Perfect. Yeah, so no kinking, pretty much a straight shot. Don't absolutely have to do this right here, but it's just a safety, extra added safety. Well, they don't have enough clamps in the box, so we'll do that right there. And one more here. Okay, snip them off. Looks good. Now I think I'm going to put one right here around this clutch cable, and that will keep that sturdy and out of everybody's way. not super tight, just gently. And that's going to keep that from jumping around. I like it. Let's turn on the reserve. Make sure we don't have any leaks. I don't have a ton of fuel in it. I might have to put some. I just got a tiny little bit out of that other tank. Okay. I had one of those little vents that'll match the bike. Let's see if we can squeeze this down on there. Oh yeah, perfect. Little hook here, suction cup here. I'll tell you what, it's hard to complain about the way that looks. It hangs down a little bit, but hey, we got some good fuel in that unit. Oh yeah, that's not bad at all. These holes will let the vapor out of this tank. Believe it or not, vapor gets out and it'll blister this stuff. So if you look at graphics for plastic tanks, they'll have those cuts in them. And I'm just putting this on there to protect the sticker. Let's see how it turns out. This is the same stuff that's on Toyota hoods and things like that. I don't think it looks too bad. It'll settle out too. Oh yeah. Ain't bad at all. Good hot sun on this black will erase some of those air pockets too. They just form around those little slits I put in there. But they'll go away once that gets hot. But you have to put those slits or it'll peel off. Well, let's make sure she runs. Oh yeah. All right, guys. So I'm really happy with this tank. Shout out to the guys at ProCycle, Tom, Mike, all the other crew, Carl. Appreciate all you guys did for sending us this to test fit. It was easier than the Clark tank. I'm not taking away from the Clark tank because it served its purpose. We rode 3,000 miles on it and it did great. This is another gallon of fuel almost, so I'm really pleased with, I didn't have to yell, bang, pull, scream, or none of that. The body lines fit really good. All the screws started really well. All the hardware was, you know, tidy and nice. And it was just a pleasure to install. It wasn't bad. You guys rode along with me doing that. So everything went well. The seat fits good back on there. And I just added this little stuff here just to have something to do. There's a guy in Canada. I'll try to find the link for these. Makes these stickers for like 12 bucks Canadian. I ordered some. And they don't stick really well on plastic tanks, but nothing does. That's why you saw me putting the slits in there, because believe it or not, these breathe a little bit. So if you buy, like I said before, if you buy a graphics kit, it's going to be slitted up if it goes on a plastic tank. So anyway, yeah, happy with it. Happy that we got to install it and everything. And yeah, fitment is spot on. I like the black. Now, you know, guys, you guys saw before I installed a Clark natural tank on my buddy's XT225, and I was really happy with the way it fit, and I really like the fact that you can see that line in it, you know, where the fuel level is. That's really cool. But I like the black look on this for, you know, just for the look or whatever. So, but I'll drop links below for ProCycle. Go check those guys out. They're awesome. They're not just TW guys. They've got just about any kind of dual sport bike you can imagine and other things, and a lot of good aftermarket parts. They can steer you in the right direction. Super knowledgeable on TWs, XRs, DRs, XTs, just all kinds of cool bikes, you know, that they really specialize in, and of course the TW. So give those guys a shout. They carry both of these tanks, Clark and IMS. So holler at those guys. Come back for the next one. Think about subbing to the channel if you haven't. We got some great stuff coming. And like I said before, we'll put a few thousand on this, and I'll let you know how it does with the math, where it runs out of fuel and whatnot. And hit that like button if you like what you see, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks a lot.